You're not diligent in none of that. That's why the word's like, that's why you can't discern between what's right and what's wrong. That's why you can sit, that's why 99.9% of the time your judgment off. Therefore the Torah is slack and judgment doth never go forth. And the wicked doth compass about the righteous, and therefore wrong judgment proceed. Behold ye among the heathen in regard and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days which you will not believe, though it be told you. You know, there's a lot of stuff y'all don't believe it, even though you've been told to you. You don't believe it. What a verse that I want. That we even came here for. Verse 13 is what we came here for. Thou art of purer eyes to behold evil, and cannot look on iniquity. Wherefore look thou upon them that deal treacherously, and hold thy tongue when the wicked devour the man that is more righteous than he. That man say his eyes is too good to behold evil. So if we got blemishes, we not good in his eyesight. So you know what ends up happening because we got blemishes? That means we're polluted, which means we can't prove we of our father's house. We can't prove what seed we come from. We can't prove we of YAHUAH. Therefore, you're going to be put out the priesthood. Now you've been put out the priesthood, which means the priests did their work where? In the temple. You've been put out the house. You've been excommunicated. You damned. That is ugly. It's very, very ugly. Galatians 2 and 14. Actually 16. Knowing this, that a man is not justified by the works of the Torah, but by the emunah of Yahushua HaMashiach, even if we have believed in Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the emunah of Mashiach, and not by the works of the Torah, for by the works of the Torah shall no flesh be justified. But if while we seek to be justified by Mashiach, we ourselves also are found sinners, is therefore Mashiach the minister of sin? Elohim forbid. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. So if we done sat back and say I done became free of blemish, and we seek to be justified by the faith of Mashiach, the emunah of Mashiach, and then we round here sinning, you have transgressed in that alone. How can you sit back and rebuild the things you destroyed? How can I sit back and go back to smoking reefer, fornicating and telling lies, breaking the Shabbat, lusting, you know what I'm saying? Stealing, deceitfulness, maliciousness, spite. How that's going to happen?
Put our plate back. Put it down. It's not yours.
Now we done rebuilt the things that we have destroyed. That man told you that temple, it would be destroyed. But then you seen it was rebuilt. But they rebuilt it in a new way. Not in the same old way with the same ways and doings. Get this Exodus 26, man. 26 and 30. Now after that, 1 John 2 and 4. 2 and 3. Then behind that, Exodus 25, I want to say 19. Dang, that's not the verse that I wanted. Exodus 25 and 40. My apologies. Listen to what he tell you. And look that thou make them after their pattern which was showed thee in the mount. Make it after the way that you seen on high. Well, the master was up there on the stake. So you're supposed to follow the pattern that is on high. Before we even go to 1 John 2 and 3, just come over here. What is it? Verse 19. Look at verse 19. They're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, right? And make one cherub on one end and the other cherub on the other end, even of the mercy seat, shall you make the cherubims on the two ends thereof. And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look to one another toward the mercy seat, shall the faces of the cherubims be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above the ark, and the ark shalt thou put the testimony that I shall give thee. Well, the Ark of the Covenant was the thing that was in the temple, behind the veil. Now you sit back and look at it, you know he say that the veil, or to say that his flesh. has been consecrated so we can have a new and living way. And the Ruach HaKodesh testify of this, saying, my Torah shall I put in their minds and in their heart and in their inward parts. So that what that turn around and tell us is that to sit back and look at the heart of stone has been turned into a heart of flesh. So therefore the Ark of the Covenant is existing behind the veil, which is in your heart. That's why he say, me and my house will serve Yahuwah. You be able to serve Yahuwah because the man told you to write his laws in his house, to hang them on your doorpost. That stuff's supposed to be hung on your heart. That's where it's manifested and you see it on a day-to-day basis. How can we sit back and say, everybody love to scream that Yahushua noon 24 and 15, me and my house will serve Yahuwah. And they ain't sitting back looking at this, talking about the literal Yahushua HaMashiach in his house, his children, his sons who dwell in his house because they show forth their father's house, that I will serve him. And I will follow the ordinances and instructions that pertain to being in this house. And if I'm found defiled, because I can't prove I'm of the priesthood, and I can't prove my father's house, and my father's seed, and I'm of Yasharal, I get put out. Now they seeking to look to find their name in the book. But your name ain't written in the book. And your name ain't written in the book because you do things that defile, and you work abomination, and you love to make lies. Therefore you are excommunicated. You are not allowed to enter. You have polluted the priesthood. Shall he that be joined to the master, shall the master be joined to a harlot? Elohim forbid. Back to Daniel chapter 1. We still holding Daniel 3 as well. So then it says they skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science. And such had ability in them to stand in the king's palace. So the next thing we're going to look at is, let's look at this understanding science. And it is madah. And it simply means knowledge or thought, mind, thought, or place of knowledge. Not literal science, but the mind and thought of knowledge. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 2. So you got to have understanding in the mind and the thought of knowledge. We're going to get to 1 John 2 and 3 in a minute about that pattern. But when you have the understanding of the mind and thought of knowledge, this is how you're going to be able to understand the pattern, because the mind of Yahuwah is what gave Moses the pattern. Stop, Leah. Stop throwing it over here. Two and 13. 2 and 12. 1 Corinthians 2 and 12. Now we have received not the Ruach of the world, but the Ruach which is of Elohim, that we might know the things that are freely given us to Elohim. Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teach, but which the Ruach HaKodesh teach, comparing spiritual things with spiritual. But the natural man received not the things of the Ruach of Elohim, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. But he that is spiritual judge all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. For who have known the mind of Yahuwah that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Mashiach. Now let's read 1 John 2 and 3 before we look at 1 John 4 and 20, 5 and 20. Now look at the pattern. So to sit back and look at, you got to have the understanding of the mind or the thoughts of Yahuwah or his word. This is who he wanted to stand in the king's palace. Those who had the ba'in or the understanding or the skill of this man's words. First John 2 and 3. And with the understanding, the B'nai, I should say, that is discern, to understand and consider, to understand and know with the mind. Hold on. Yeah. All right. It says discerning or attentive, to consider diligently, to be discerning, insight, to distinguish, to observe, to give heed. Hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him and keep not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoso keep his word, in him truly is the love of Elohim perfected. Hereby we know that we are in him. He that saith he abide in him ought himself also to walk, even as he has walked. That means you need to walk in the pattern. And the pattern is, I came to do thy will, O my Elohim. Thy Torah is within my heart. Your covenant is within the temple. Is this man covenant within your temple? Or have you been swearing falsely? That's what you got to look at. Have you been swearing falsely? 1 John 5 and 20. Make it 18. Here we know that whosoever is born of Elohim sin not, but he that is begotten of Elohim keep himself, and the wicked one touch him not. And we know that we of Elohim and the whole world lie in wickedness. And we know that the Son of Elohim is come, and have given us an understanding, that we may know him that is true. And we are in him that is true. Even in his Son YAHUAH HaMashiach, this is the true Elohim and eternal life. Well, let's look at something the Master said in Luke 24 and 44. So to sit back to get an understanding is to dwell in him that is true and to know him. Well, the Master already told you in YAHUAH 14. The world can't receive the Ruach of truth because it hasn't seen him, neither has it known him. And that's why he said they have not known me, they have erred, they have not known my ways. We don't know the man's pathway, therefore we make error after error. Why? Because we have confidence in lying words that can't profit. We have confidence in the flesh. The flesh deceives. He said through the deceitfulness of sin. Paul say that our slave, sin deceived me. The flesh make you think up is down, right is left, and wrong is right. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the Torah of Moshe, and in the prophets, and in the Telahim, and concerning me. Then opened he their understanding, that they might understand the scriptures. And he said unto them, thus it is written, thus it behooved Mashiach to suffer, and to rise from the dead the third day. And that repentance and remission of sins should be preached in his name among all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. So this is the first thing you have to sit back and look at when you get an understanding that these things are concerning him for the remission of your sins and for you to turn from your evil and wicked ways, like we read in Jeremiah 7, amend your ways and your doing, execute judgment. So when you get understanding, you're supposed to be able to know how to execute what's right and wrong, not just in your own mind, but also between a man and his neighbor. You're supposed to thoroughly amend your way. This is the understanding you're supposed to receive to walk in the pattern. But then what is the next thing I want to look at that came to my head? John 6 and 44. And we'll be at university tomorrow, at university. Matter of fact, for the whole month of June. YAHUAH therefore answered and said unto them, murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and that they shall be all taught of Elohim. There even every man therefore that have heard and have learned of the Abba, come unto me. Not that any man have seen the Abba, save he which is of Elohim, he have seen the Abba. Truly, truly, I say unto you, he that believe on me have everlasting life. Don't y'all realize when you see the Son, you see Abba? That's when you see the Father when that happens. This is where he say understanding the mind and the thought. I want you to look at Isaiah 40 and 12. The whole objective to be able to stand in the king's palace is you need to be able to understand science or understand the mind and thought of YAHUAH. You need to know his ways. You need to understand his ways. You need to trust his ways. You need to believe in his ways. And you need to walk in them. (40 and 12). Listen what he tell you. Who have measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out Shamahim with the span, and comprehended the dust of the Arats in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance? Who have directed the Ruach of Yahuwah, or being his counselor have taught him? With whom took he counsel, and who he instructed him, and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him in knowledge, and showed him the way of understanding? Ain't none of us did that. So, and to be able to get that understanding that we seek, we have to be able to seek it from those who have that mind and that thought to be able to impart it unto you. Now we can look at Colossians 1 and 26. Make it 25. Wherefore I made a minister according to the dispensation of Elohim, which is given to me for you to fulfill the word of Elohim. For the mystery which have been hid from the ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to his Kadeshim, to whom Elohim would make known what is the riches of his esteem of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Mashiach in you, the hope of esteem. Whom we preach, warning every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, that we might present every man perfect in Yahushua HaMashiach. So the whole purpose to be able to stand in this king's palace is no sin, to be good in his eyesight. Now we'll look at skillful in all wisdom, because he say teaching men in all wisdom. We know what wisdom is, but let's look at skillful. It's a call. It means to be prudent, to be circumspect, wisely understood, and to prosper. To give attention, to consider, to ponder, to be prudent, to have comprehension, to act wisely. That they would be able to know how to act wisely, to be skillful in war. Because we know Kokma is the skill in war or battle. You battle in your flesh, you got to have the skill to do that. So I mean, Paul instructed them in all wisdom to know how to beat the flesh. How do you beat the flesh? By following the pattern that was shown to you in the high place or in the mount, and putting the ark inside that temple. That's why he say, don't let these people lie to you. The temple of Yahuwah, the temple of Yahuwah. The temple of Yahuwah is he. He said, are these. He said, where is the place where I don't dwell in temples made with hands? He said, you are the temple of the living Elohim. I will walk in them and I will be in them. But you got to thoroughly amend your ways. You got to learn how to execute judgment between a man and his neighbor. You can't be polluted. You can't enter. You can't even go into the temple to do no work unless you are the priesthood. Show forth in your father's house. Show forth your seed. Show forth you of Yahshua. We know it ain't seeds of many, but seeds is one. That seed being Mashiach. Showing forth you born of the word. You must be born of water and the Ruach. That which is flesh is flesh. That which is Ruach is Ruach. He said, and we know that we are the sons of Elohim because we are led by the Ruach. You led by the word. If you're not following the word, but following your flesh and following the world, you're not of him. There's a difference between the two. What are you following? See, it's just going to lead that up to on the Shabbat. Because that's what I had in my mind to go to, is sitting back looking at it. Who are you following? What's leading you? You leading yourself? Don't you know that's why many are people who say they in the truth or know they Israel, that's why they falling, because they lead themselves. And try to tell themselves they being led by the word, but you doing what you want to do. Look at that Romans 8 and 14, because I keep referencing it, just to lead the way to, that's what we getting to this week. I know I mentioned Jeremiah 17, I'm going to just read it. We'll get to it on the Shabbat, most high willing. For as many as are led by the Ruach of Elohim, they are the sons of Elohim. You know, the book tell you in Psalms that a good man's steps are ordered by Yah. The way you supposed to go, Yah directed. If you following his Ruach, I told the brother today, right? If you got to get outside the way to get something, I don't care what it is. You got to stay outside the way to keep it. That man say his home and his house is a refuge for the Kadeshim. If you got to get outside of it to get it, you got to stay outside of it to keep it. And on top of that, you would know if you were being led by the Ruach, Yahuwah wouldn't lead you outside his way to get anything. That's not common sense. That's not skillful in science right there. That's not having no skill in science. That ain't having the mind or thought of Yahuwah. I really think Yah would direct me to sin or to commit sin to get this. And the word part is, y'all silly niggas are hear a nigga tell you that and don't say, man, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. You can't be that stupid. You really think y'all would do that? Y'all will sit there and nod your head with it in agreement or don't say nothing. You just as wicked. You consented to that sin with me. You took pleasure in it and you worthy of the same judgment according to the book because you consent. But won't nobody tell us that because you don't want to sit back and look at it. That's them. They ain't got nothing to do with me. That's them. That's them. That's them. They ain't got nothing to do with me. That's all them. That got something to do with you. Ephesians chapter 5. I'm going to read this 5 and 11 one more time. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light. Wherefore he saith, awake thou that sleep, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall give thee light. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the master is. Well, let's look at 1 Peter 1 and 16, and let's see what the will of the master is. And let's look at 1 Thessalonians 4 and 8, and let's see what the master is, the will of the master is. And let's look at John 6 and 27, and let's see what the will of the master is. He said, you're supposed to be wise, not a fool. You're supposed to know. So how you don't know that if you getting led to do something outside his way, you ain't following his ruach, so you can't be a son of Elohim doing that? How dumb can you be to think opposite? One and 13. Wherefore, this is 1 Peter 1 and 13. Wherefore, gird up the loins of your mind and be sober, and hope to the end for the favor that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yahushua HaMashiach, as obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance. That means if you're not supposed to go back and fashion yourself after the desires that you did when you didn't know any better. That's what he was showing us when we came about in Mizraim. Don't make your mind, he say, do not serve the gods on the other side of the flood or the ones in Mizraim. He say, me and my house gonna serve Yahuwah. Be obedient sons. Don't make your mind be like what it was when you were lusting after stuff when you didn't know. Now you done sitting willfully, you know. That means you wasn't following y'all the whole time, you was following you. But as he which have called you is Kadesh, so be ye Kadesh in all manner of behavior. Because it is written, be ye Kadesh, for I am Kadesh. This is the will of the Father, that you set yourself apart. 1 Thessalonians 4 and 8. Let's see what the will of the Father is. 4 and 7, I should say. Matter of fact, hold on. Let's make it 4 and 2. Make it 4 and 1. Let's just hear the will of the Father. Furthermore, then we beseech you, brethren, exhort you by the Master Yahushua, that as you have received of us how you ought to walk and to please Elohim, so would you abound more and more. So if you've been hearing the word, you ought to know how to please Elohim and walk in that. For you know what commandments we gave you by the Master Yahushua. For this is the will of Elohim, even your sanctification, that you should abstain from fornication, that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and in honor. So this is the will of Elohim, to know how to possess your body, to not defile it, to pollute it, because then he got to put it out his house. Verse 7, for Elohim have not called us unto uncleanliness, but unto Kadesh. Sanctification. This is the will of Elohim. Let's get this Romans 12 and 1 before we sit back and look at this John 6 and 27. You supposed to know what the will of Elohim is, and you supposed to prove it in how you live. How you proving the will of Elohim with a sinner when you sinning with him, or you condone sin? How you proving that? How you gonna convert somebody to that? But niggas got 1,000,001 excuses. He said, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, Kadesh, acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. I'm not going to go into great detail, but you can see that in the Torah. He told you don't mess with the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, all of them. He said, because all these instructions that I'm giving you, they did it in the land, spit them out. Don't make yourself like the heathen. Don't follow after them. Be renewed by my Torah, which I'm giving you to have a new mind and a new and living way, because I delivered you by the flesh of a lamb, which you ate to come out of bondage. Be transformed, prove my will. He said, this word is your understanding in the sight of the nations. You keeping it was going to prove the perfect and acceptable will of Elohim to their face. A nigga sitting around here sitting, blaspheming the man's word, talking about, I'm a Kadeshim, I'm a YAHUAH. You not of this man's house. You not of the seed. You not of YAHUAH. You're polluted. He gonna put you out the priesthood. That's a reprobate. You reject it. How we don't know the will of Allah? Why does it even have to be the fact that this man got to put it in my mind for us to go back over for you to know what the will of Elohim is? You supposed to already know. You supposed to already been led by his Ruach to know I'm a son of Elohim. I know if I'm going in this direction and sin is there and death is there, YAHUAH ain't there, where am I going? This can't be what is of YAHUAH. A nigga sit back and be like, oh, he said this came to his head. A nigga ain't seen me go nowhere near going to do nothing against this man, period. But a nigga turn around and blame me for they pitfalls and they faults. No, nigga, that's what you wanted to do. And you didn't want to do it. It's easier to blame somebody else than take accountability for what you do. It's easier for you to do that, to pass the buck. And the worst part is, you niggas will let a nigga pass it. You won't look a nigga in the face and say, no, you wrong for that. You can't blame that person for that. You did that. Nigga, everybody grown. Nigga, I can't blame nobody for selling dope. Man, when my homeboy say, yeah, boy, you see all them smoking, boy? Well, you better get on some of this money, boy. I didn't have to listen to that. Nigga, I sold dope because I wanted to. I ain't had to start smoking cigarettes. That nigga say, yeah, boy, you smoked this cigarette after this blunt, boy, it'll boost your high. I could have just stuck with the reefer. I did it because I wanted to. You don't got to sleep with that woman. Then you blame her. No, you slept with her because you wanted to. Like I told y'all the other day, you have to sit back and look at it. If a nigga won't try you with committing sin, but they'll go to another nigga with the same sin, that says a lot about them, and it says a lot about how they look at you and the person they went to go commit it with. Because a nigga know don't try me with that. They know I ain't going for it. Nigga know better than to try me with some more. I ain't doing it. They already know it for the thought. I ain't finna ask that nigga. That nigga's not doing that. Now, why can a nigga come at you and size you like that? A nigga know they can't bring no wickedness, no stupid. You know you can't do nothing stupid or tell me you did something stupid and I'm just like, you know, that's all right, bro. That ain't no big deal. Nigga, oh, nigga, I ain't going for that. You niggas are hear niggas say they did something stupid or watch a nigga do something stupid, ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't getting into that. That's wicked. That's evil, uncompassionate, unloving. That's not of y'all. All that ain't got nothing to do with me. Man, John 6:26. I got to get out of here, man. 6:26. How we going to be able to stand in the king's palace if we lack all of these things? If we got blemishes and we're not good in this sight and we don't have the skill or the circumspect to execute skill in war and that we're not cunning and knowledge. Hold on. Let me get this cunning and knowledge. Let me get the cunning and knowledge before I read this 6:26. Cunning is yada. It means to know and perceive, to see, find out and discern, to discriminate, distinguish, to know by experience. That's why he say they able to discern good and evil by reason of use. If you can't discern between what's good and evil, that means you ain't been using the word. That's what that means. We look at knowledge. We already talked about understanding science. So if you can't understand, if you don't have the understanding of Yah's thoughts or Yah's word, where are you going to be at? we look at knowledge, right? It's da'ah. It means knowledge, perception, skill, discernment, understanding, wisdom. And again, I'm just going to read understanding again real fast. The B'nai. It means to discern. Now, you know this man told you that he give you pastors according to his heart that should feed you with knowledge and understanding. So you realize when you being fed the Mashiach, you being fed understanding. Because you're understanding to know him and to dwell in him. That you might know him that is true. When you know him that is true, that means you know the not you skillful, you can know what's right and what's wrong. You can prove the acceptable will of Elohim. How you don't know that? How you can't prove that? We don't see a problem with that. We don't see a scenario where that's bad. We don't sit back and realize that means we ain't been putting our hand to the plow. Do we understand how serious that is? See, but we look at that type of stuff and we just say, man, that nigga just talking. That's just how he feel. Or that's just how he feel. And hey, man, the words say what it say, man. Take it for what you want to take it for. Go the way you want to go. It's your soul. You can do what you want to with it. You can do what you want to with it. But just know its consequences and repercussions are behind it, though. Don't say you ain't been warned. 6:26. Yahushua answered them and said, truly, truly, I say unto you, ye seek me not because you saw the miracles, but because you did to eat the loaves and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perish, but for the meat which endure unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him have the Elohim Abba sealed. Then said they unto him, what shall we do that we might work the works of Elohim? Yahushua answered and said unto them, this is the work of Elohim, that you believe on him whom he hath sent. Well, there go the will of Elohim. The will of Elohim is that you believe on his son and that you keep the Kadesh. And you know how to sanctify
No, that means no.
and honor your body. But let's finish this here in Daniel 3. All these things will allow you to be able to stand in his courts. You're not going to be able to stand in this man's courts without it. You're not going to be able to stand in the king's palace. You're going to be like the men we read in Nehemiah. You're going to pollute the priesthood. You're going to get put out. Daniel 3. Drop it on down. We was at verse 19. We'll just read from verse 20. And he commanded the mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hose, and in their hats, and their other garments, and were cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent and the furnace was exceeding hot, the flame of fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up haste and spake and said unto his counselors, did we not cast three men into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the 4th is like the son of Elohim. Now we started there for this one reason. You see those that were of the flesh, when that fire hit them, they were burned and consumed and destroyed. But those that walked with Yahushua walked through the midst of the fire, and they were not singed. As it says, their garments were not burned. There was no smell of fire upon them. The fire had no power on the hair of their head, nor their coats were changed. The smell of fire hadn't passed on them. Look at something in Luke chapter 12, then Hebrews chapter 12. 12 and 5. 12 and 4. And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that could kill the body, and after that they have no more that they can do. But I will forewarn you whom you shall fear. Fear him which after he have killed, have power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him. And are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings, and not one of them is forgotten before Elohim? But even the very heads of your hair are all numbered. Fear not therefore, for you are more value than many sparrows. See, when you walk through Mashiach, ain't no fire can touch you. And we're going to get in this a little bit more great detail because we went off in a different direction. No fire can touch you. That fire, the trying of your faith, which is more precious than gold, that fiery trial, you can walk through it and not be burned. Nothing can harm you, and nothing will change. It can't harm you. But look at Hebrews chapter 12. And we'll stop it right here. (12 and 25).
Go to the hand. The hand is over there.
See that ye refuse not him that speak. For if they escape not who refuse him that spake on the rats, how much more shall we not escape if we turn away from him that speak from Shamahim? Whose voice then shook the rats, but now he hath promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not the rats only, but also Shamahim. And this word yet once more signify the removing of those things that are shaken. See, if you could sit back and look at if your faith gets shaken and all that stuff, then y'all just gonna move you out the way. As of things that are made, those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Those things that ain't shaken, they gonna stand firm, because they gonna keep their hope and rejoice all the way to the end. Because when that persecution and tribulation arise, they didn't get offended and fall away. Wherefore we, receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have favor, whereby we may serve Elohim with reverence and godly fear. For our Elohim is a consuming fire. And you already know he's coming back to plead with fire and his sword and burn up all things in his pathway. Because those things which can be burned up is because they are that of the flesh. The things that are the Ruach cannot be burned up. That's why he say those that are of briars and thorns ought to be rejected and nigh unto cursing and ought to be burned. But hallelujah for Yahushua in the word.